Arena just fills me with so much pressure and dread, and I'm starting to wonder why. Greetings and salutations, my name is Deltran, and I feel like discussing Fire Emblem Heroes on my way home from my cottage. I have this little cottage out in the way, and we spent Father's Day there. I got to sit there and think about Arena a little bit in Fire Emblem Heroes, and the thought was spurned by the fact that I was watching my 2-year-old and 4-year-old fight each other with sticks in the yard and let them hit each other, and instead of stopping them like a good dad really would, I said, you're being chased around by a 2-year-old. And I think Arena is probably the worst thing in the game right now. No, wait, I take that back. Spending over 100 orbs and not getting a frickin' 5-star unit is probably the worst thing in the game right now. But Arena gives you a close second. And it's interesting because there has been this gentrification of several things within the game, including Arena. Now you get rewards like right away just for doing it. You only have to go through 5 fights. You get the Tempest Trial boost on heroes whenever you're in Arena. I mean, it just doesn't seem like this is a big deal anymore, and yet it is. It puts so much pressure on me as a Fire Emblem Heroes content creator, especially one who focuses so heavily on builds, because I think that I should be able to stay in tier 20. If I'm telling people how to build their hero, you would think that I would be able to maintain the tier 20 rank. And so I had that idea like just before Christmas. So it's been like 6-7 months now that I've been actively trying to stay in tier 20, and with very few exceptions, I've been in tier 20 solid. And it's those few exceptions that really bring about a lot of confusing thoughts for me concerning Arena and its purpose in the game. So all kinds of online games have this notion of player versus player combat. Well, this isn't real PvP combat, but you are crafting a team of your own design, and you're pitting it against teams of other people's own designs. The AI is running it, not a player. But aside from that, you are taking elements that have been player created, being put out there against other things and being called content. And in addition to that, this does directly correspond and gives you a rank on how you're doing. So it is that interactive content that every online game needs, plus it's just free content. I mean, it's like Mario Maker, you know? It's like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and give you a Mario level editor, and people are gonna use the crap out of it, and you guys are gonna love us for letting you make the game for us. I mean, it was smart, and it was even smarter that they went ahead and just did Arena Assault right after this. I think that it was incredibly smart that they did that, because yeah, they had content being generated for them, and all they had to do is make sure they had a fair or pseudo-fair matching system so that they could go ahead and have appropriate challenges lined up. That's it. So it was incredibly smart and inevitable that IS was going to do this. But while my thoughts that I have on this are sort of conjoined, and it's going to come across as a little rambly, I will admit, really they are broken down into 2 different categories. So I'm going to do my best to keep the thoughts separate, and I will start by talking about this idea that all the content in Fire Emblem Heroes is very obtainable. It's all very reachable. You can do the Infernal content, not easily, but you have a fighting chance as long as you have been collecting things for only a few months, to be honest with you. I have the benefit of having experience and knowing what to do with things, but bringing somebody up on a new free-to-play account, if I get to dictate all the actions that they do, and I can usually get them to the point where they're able to complete several Infernal challenges. It's not unobtainable. It's not something that is that lofty. The game gives you access to so much, and the parts of the game have just been really downplayed so that you can actually just achieve so much in the game. As a matter of fact, all the rewards are front-loaded. Look at how Arena is set up, where it has 5 fights and then you get a reward for doing a chain of 5 fights. Not even perfectly. That's not even what you need to do in order to continue to advance in tier. However, they give you those resources there, and they're like, here, go ahead and just collect stuff just for giving it a shot. Take a look at the conquest maps that they have. The rival domain specifically, the weekly ones give you rewards, and the first one is the one that gives you an orb. The next two steps are almost 2 cares, and you know what? I'm starting to appreciate the Divine Dew from the Infernal map a lot more as time goes on. But in the grand scheme of things, 10 Divine Dew is really meh. You don't need that to survive. You can get along with the rewards that they give you. Taking a look at the whole Grand Conquest thing, and I'm not going to make this about other things, I'm just trying to prove the point that they wisely, super wisely, shrunk the range at which the rewards were given out. And so even if you're on a team that gets its butt handed to it, you're getting thousands of feathers just because they decided to have an event. I think it's handing out rewards like that, and that it's the accessibility. I won't say ease, because, you know, everybody's definition of easy is different, but the accessibility of all these other events really coalesce into this idea that Fire Emblem Heroes is meant to be enjoyed by as many people as possible, and to let everybody have all the goodies. And I could talk about that particular topic for a long time, but where it comes home concerning everybody's favorite whipping boy right now, which seems to be Arena. Getting and staying in tier 20 is hard. Now, in context of what I just talked about, that seems like a shame, but if you take a step back and take that sentence at its own, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's been a lot of other games I have played that I just looked at the pinnacle of play and I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna get there. I'm never gonna get all the components I need to make the Widget of Wonder. I'm never gonna get all the pieces of that person to make them. It's just not gonna happen. Now, I've had the benefit of playing Fire Emblem Heroes from day one. This game is a year and a half old as of recording, so it makes you wonder what's gonna happen with this game down the road. But the game as it stands right now is still very welcoming to everybody coming into this space, and I find that amazing, because so many other games out there are welcoming while still saying, hey, here's this tier of play that people with passion and dedication, and the subtext is money. They're the ones who are going to excel at this particular gameplay, and they're going to get a lot out of it. Now, you can think what you will about the gacha model. I have a lot of thoughts beyond what I'm about ready to say. But I will say to one level that it makes sense. If you're going to put money into this game, you should be able to enjoy a tier of challenge and excitement that is complementary of the money that you are putting into it. Part of that is subjective, but the objective part is that there needs to be a place for you to go whenever that happens. Now, it's been a problem for a while that having a team stay in tier 20 doesn't just require skill and builds anymore. Whenever I first started doing this several months ago, it required you to have some degree of good merges. I mean, yeah, you had to have Aether, you had to have maxed out builds that were focusing on points as opposed to combat efficiency, and I adjusted to that. On top of that, though, you really needed those merges, and so I've been building them. My first plus 10 unit, I'd lucked into it based on the rotation of how things were going, and it just came to me, and I was so happy. My second plus 10 unit was Naui, and I built to that myself. My main Arena team until recently consisted of a plus 5 armor unit, Grima. Now I also have a third plus 10, which is Tharja, the first hero that I have actively said, no, I'm going to spend money, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get that. And I never throw a dollar value down on the orbs I spend. And my wife is watching. Hi, I love you, honey. Mwah. But I will say that I spent, between free-to-play orbs and orbs I purchased, nearly 1,000 orbs. Actually, I will say 1,000 orbs in order to get my plus 10 Tharja. I'm not going to comment on whether or not I think that was a worthwhile spend or whether anything like that, but I will say I am very happy with Tharja, so I'm glad I managed to get her before her banner went bye-bye. But it's now gotten to the point where it's not just the little money that you have to invest in order to stay into tier 20. It takes a lot of money, because not only do you have to have 3 plus 10 units, hopefully not 2 of them being ranged like mine are, but you also need to have another plus 10 unit practically every time that banner comes out, because you can't get Alphonse and company up to the point where they're going to be useful every week. Now, staying in tier 20 is a lot less about builds and composition and a lot more about, can you make a optimal build out of semi-non-optimal parts, which really, if you're running an armored team, there is no unoptimal part, but that's a different story. Can you build this team, have it be successful, and spend enough money in order to stay in that top tier competition? And I think it's good that there is a place for whales to go where they can celebrate themselves, and to have other people not necessarily envy them, but look up to these other players who have that strong, competitive, and driven desire to be there and to see what kind of builds they are doing and to see what kind of gameplay that is. I think it's crucial for this game to have a couple of places that are sort of locked off like that. Now, you can argue, there's a lot to argue about that, but to bring it home for me, since I am recording this on Father's Day, I just finished visiting my father on the way back from the cottage. And there are 3 life lessons that have really stuck with me from my father. The first one is something that actually set me on the path to what my professional career is, what my day job is, and so it really doesn't have any point being in this video. The other 2 are very closely related, but they break down to this. One, if you have a responsibility to do something, you should act on that responsibility, not just timely, but immediately. Not with reckless abandon, not by jeopardizing anything else, but if you are supposed to do something, then you should just go and do it. No questions asked. Now, my dad was never happy to do a lot of the things that seemed to pop up around the house, but and I didn't understand that. It just seemed like, to me, the first thing I really learned from that was doing things is misery, but you do it anyway. Well, then I started to learn more, and that's where the third and final lesson that was really stuck to me from my father comes into play. The things that are extra are simply going to pull away from everything that is important to you. All of your responsibilities are lined up from things that you have put value in, things that you've decided were important, and things that you want in your life. So even if a responsibility is temporarily bothersome, it's still a privilege that you get to work within that. And if you get to do some of these extra things, that's great. But otherwise, they really are just that, extra. Your responsibilities are the things that are building your life to be what you want it to be. So while I was sitting there thinking of arena fights because of my children hitting each other with sticks, and then realizing that, hey, in a couple of days' time, I'm going to drop from tier 20 into tier 19 with my arena team that I currently have. This used to cause me a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, but with the thoughts that my father has given me in mind, within the next couple of days, whenever I drop from tier 20 to tier 19, I am going to be okay with it, and I am going to be okay with the decision going forward that bouncing between 19 and 20 is going to be just fine by me. Because sure, I'm going to be missing out on 1,000 feathers every other week, and yes, I'm not going to have that neat tier 20 next to my name on my friends list, but what's important to me is getting to have time to spend with my family, to actually make content instead of stressing out about a number on things and spending so much money on Fire Emblem Heroes. I am no free-to-play or even Dolphin by a long shot. However, I don't have any value in maintaining that kind of tier 20 team. And so I think that's something that I'm going to eschew and do without. And I'm going to be okay whenever I see 19 as my tier every other week. Future Deltran here. As you can already see, yeah, the arena run that I've been playing with this actually got me to stay in tier 20, at least as of recording. And I don't think that I'm necessarily going to fall out of that. I was actually really surprised. I was simply recording it, and I figured it would have this nice dramatic thing where it would show that I still wasn't in tier 20, because I started off with 36,000 points, and that was with a deathless run with the same team that you saw. So I just thought that's where I was going to be. I am happy that I get to stay in tier 20, but honestly, everything I said before is still true. It's not going to be a focal point for me, and I don't think that it is something to really strive for many people anymore, to be quite blunt about it. So what about you? What are your thoughts on Arena? Let me know down in the comments, and do me a favor, if you like your Fire Emblem information hot and fresh like Grandma's cookies, hit that subscribe button. My name is Deltran. Thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate all of you, and until next time, take it easy.